my name is Amy, and I'm from Capability Experiment. Today, we are extremely lucky to have Walter Sanabria with us. He is an environmental engineer from a province in Costa Rica called Cartago. And uh, could you please introduce yourself, Walter?
Okay, hello. I'm Walter, and as Amy said, I am an environmental engineer. I ended my studies like last year, and I have like 2 or 3 years of experience in this field. Uh, so let's begin.
Yeah, I'm really interested in environmental engineering because I know it is such a broad field and there is so many subtopics like water pollution, air quality, indoor and outdoors, and then soil quality, and then also hazardous waste. And I'm really interested in hearing um, about your career and also your inspiration today. So my first question is, I would like to know, what do you do working as an environmental engineer?
Well, as you told us, an environmental engineer can have expertise in different fields. So you can go to water quality, to soil quality, solid waste management, environmental impact, uh, energetic resources management, etc. Toxicology, for example.
Mm,
So you have a lot of fields where you can develop yourself. But in my case, what I do is that I designed and implement sustainable development programs for companies. So, for example, I have to create or improve the processes that a company has that could mitigate the damage that human activities do to the environment. So it's basically that. Uh, all the processes depends of the kind of company. Uh, it also I have also to make like talks or workshops with people in the company so they can be conscious of what their actions do to the environment. So,
mm. Could you give me a specific example of a project that you've worked on?
uh, well, for example, last time, my last job, I had to design a sustainable development program for a company that they have like only like administration services. So in all my job, I had to give them talks and workshops or how to manage water, how to manage energy, what is the correct form to manage solid waste, for example, the correct ways to recycle, for
Mm-hmm.
example. Sometimes people, and that's for you too, for everyone that wants to study environmental engineer, sometimes people think that engineer is only about math or technology or technology. But I will tell you that sometimes people forget about human resources, about people. Uh, so in my thesis, I was working in the field of solid waste management, but I was working with people from the street with waste pickers. So they are people that sometimes they live in the streets or they have like lower income. So they have to, what they use to survive is the solid waste that they pick in the streets so
Mm,
they can sell it to recycle. So in my thesis, I was working with that kind of activities. So making a study of the value chain of the recycled materials, the carbon footprint of the recycled materials versus if those materials are taken to the landfill, for example, and all the analysis of the social and economic analysis of these people. So I had to make a proposal so they can be taken to the formal market of the recycled materials so they can improve the quality of their life and at the same time
mm.
the recycle process of Costa Rica can improve.
Oh, I see. So, um, in the meantime, while they improve the quality of their lives, they can also help improve the environment around them, and then
Yeah,
they
exactly.
sort their waste properly.
Exactly, exactly. Because sometimes these people who works in that are informal workers. So, for example, if a country wants to make like a measurement of the carbon footprint of materials, that study is not taking in account the materials that these waste pickers are taking, are recovering.
I see.
So
Yeah.
sometimes it's a problem in the measurements, for example.
Yeah, because people are so focused on the big things, the ways that the tractors, for example, in U.S. they pick up our trash from our homes, but sometimes we forget about the people who are picking trash out of the trash cans and then um,
Exactly.
selling them otherwise.
Yeah, exactly. And sometimes they are people with some social problems too, because of their incomes or because they are in drugs or because they are alcoholic or different kind of problems. So sometimes giving them a better income for them or a better quality of life, they will also improve their lives and let those bad habits like away.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that sounds really interesting. Um, could you tell me about a favorite moment so far in your career?
My your favorite moment. Okay, I think in my career we have to make like a professional practice. We have to go outside the world, the real world, and work with a company. So I think that that was my favorite moment because it was a moment where I had to learn a lot of things. But when you have to put it into practice,
Yeah.
sometimes it's difficult or you don't know how to do it. The professional practice was my first job of all. So it was my first time where I have to put into practice what I learned in the university. And also I had a good experience with the people I had to work with. But that like facing the real world, uh, making a real change. I mean, it wasn't a homework, it wasn't a project for a teacher. It was like a real company where you have to solve a real problem for them. So I think that that moment, that real moment of my career, that first moment of my career was the most important to me.
Hmm. My next question is, what first sparked your interest in environmental engineering? How did you start?
Okay, when I was in high school, I didn't know that environmental engineering exists. I was like, I started I started studying computer engineer. I had like 2 years in computer engineer when I
Oh.
was in university. And after 2 years, I was like, I don't like it. This is not for me. So I had to look for something that really inspires me, that I really want to study, that I really want for my life. So I was looking for careers, different kind of careers, and I found a environmental engineer. I read about it. I read probably information similar of what you read, and I looked for it, and I said like, oh my God, I fell in love with environmental engineer in that moment because when I saw all the fields where you can have expertise, all the things that you can do for the world, it's like being like a superhero. I
Yeah.
mean, I don't know, you kind of you want to save or at least like make a better place, make the world a better place for everyone.
Hmm. Yeah, that's exactly how I felt because if I can apply my science knowledge and my mathematical knowledge to the real world, it's really going to make an impact, and it would be really, really valuable.
I mean, environmental engineer is needed in every human activity. I mean, it doesn't matter which kind of company you are working with. Uh, all human activity is making an impact in the environment. So it is your job to improve that activities to mitigate that impact. So I think that that is another nice things about the career. because it doesn't matter which kind of company you are working, uh, you have to improve the that the activities and processes of the company
Mm-hmm.
to make like a balance between the company needs and what environment needs.
Can you tell me, Walter, can you tell me what inspires you?
What inspires me is probably the actions of other environmental engineers. I mean, they are there outside in the world working with different companies, and they all are making the world a better place for all of us, in spite of all the difficulties that it represents. I mean, for example, as I told you, as an environmental engineer, you have to make like a balance between what a company wants or needs and what the environment needs. That is the sustainable development. And sometimes it's really hard, really difficult because I mean, if someone wants to make a company, they want to earn money, right?
Yeah, to use as much
So
resource as possible.
exactly, exactly. So it's your job to tell them, hey, wait, you can make the same amount of money or more, but you also can
Do it
like
an alternative
reduce.
way.
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah,
And that's sometimes the creative and difficult part of the career.
that's very
But it's really
interesting.
nice when you're used to it. It turns like easier.
Um, my next question is what are the three traits for success that you would tell somebody for somebody in your field?
Okay, an environmental engineer have
Yeah.
to be a person sensitive to the environment problems. So I would tell you that sensitivity is the first trait that a person have to do, like to understand why environment is important to all of us. I mean, it's not just because trees are beautiful or something like that. No, it's because we need the environment to succeed in our life,
Mm.
right? So I
Yeah.
think that kind of sensitivity is like really really important. Also perseverance, because sometimes it is a hard work. Sometimes companies think that environment is in another it's another thing completely apart of them.
Yeah.
So perseverance is really really important. Also while you are studying, right? Because sometimes some subjects are kind of hard. Um, and also you have to have the capacity of see things like see all the map of things. For example, you cannot work only with environment because you have to know
Because
that a company needs.
interconnected.
Yeah, exactly, because everything is interconnected in a company, for example. So if you want to improve the environment, uh, in some way you have to understand about the economy of that company. You have to understand about processes of the company depending on which kind of company it is. But yeah, I think you have to learn or have the capacity of seeing things like probably are not in your expertise field.
Yeah. Meanwhile, this is the interesting and exciting part of the profession,
Yeah,
right?
I have learned, I mean, a lot, really a lot of things about that because if you're working in a company that produces milk, for example, you will learn how milk is produced. if
Yeah.
you're working in a company that produce, I don't know, plastic bottles, you will learn how plastic bottles are produced.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it's like it's like an interesting thing about that, about learning about other fields.
Mm-hmm. What if I were a student interested in the environment and human interactions and engineering or math in general, what advice would you give me?
I think that the advice is like the same trait that I give you before, that you need to be perseverant. Eh, and also, for example, you have to know that a lot of times people think that to be an engineer you have to be a master in math, for example. I know you everything can be learned. I mean, in the if you are not good in math, you can learn math. You don't have to be the perfect student in math, for example. And also, if you are not the perfect student in math, you will. It doesn't mean that you will not be a good professional because everything is different in class than in the real world, for example. So I will give the advice of perseverance. Don't be sad if the first step, if you failure in the first step, you always have to get up and continue trying your best. Um, and yeah, like perseverance, I think is the real most important thing in this and in many things in life.
Would you say that the social skills and the mathematical skills play an equal part in when you apply to a job, say in a company?
Yeah, I would say that environment engineer is especially important that you have nice way to communicate your ideas because you have to be related with a lot of kind of people. So you have to express good your ideas because if you have a good idea and you cannot express that idea, so it doesn't matter how good the idea is if you cannot like make it real.
Oh,
I think that something that helped me when I was in high school, as I told you, my first career was computer engineer. I thought that it would like me because when I was in high school, I used to make, if I had a problem with my computer, I never asked anyone to solve me that problem. I always went to find out how to solve it by myself. So I would tell you that if you have a problem with your computer, for example, first you by yourself look for it in Google, in anything, in any place, how to solve it by yourself. And after that, if you cannot solve that problem, okay, you can call someone else. But the first step is try to solve it by yourself. You will
mm,
learn a lot of many things.
I will try that out. All right, then that is it for today.
Okay,
Uh,
perfect.
yeah, thank you so
Yeah,
much for talking with me.
sure. Thank you for inviting me.